Welcome to the Beyond Belief series, where we're taking a soulful look at the Bible. Here we explore our divine existence and get real about the conversations we were once afraid to have. This is esoteric insight, truth-telling, and honest self-investigation. We're sharing how old fear-based stories have sparked an empowered shift in our awareness. It's going to be fun, y'all. It's live. It's safe to be here because we are definitely going beyond belief. You can find us live on YouTube Sundays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Be sure to follow the show, subscribe to the channel, and join the conversation. Leave us a kind rating or a comment if this speaks to your soul. All right, family, let's get into it. Welcome to the show. Hello, welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the Beyond Belief series. Where you at, Da'Vette? You here? I'm waiting for you. Are you having some technical difficulties? I think Da'Vette is having technical difficulties. Well, welcome back to the show, everyone. Thank you for coming to the Beyond Belief series. All right, there she is. This is a series where we're taking a look at these scriptures, these Bible scriptures, y'all, and we're looking at them through an esoteric lens. And because Da'Vette brings a wealth of knowledge to this subject matter, we just thought we would team up and go in about these scriptures because I think about it, just think about the scriptures. I really looked at the scriptures as something that was, I think I probably looked at these scriptures through fear, right? And so you are bringing this different perspective and point of view when we look at it through an esoteric lens. And certainly now, as I've had my spiritual awakening, I can see, I look at things through a metaphysical lens. So this is going to be a great conversation. I'm glad that you are here. How you doing, Da'Vette? You doing all right? You having some technical?
I am having serious technical difficulties. I don't see you.
I can't hear you.
Okay, so I'm going to leave and come back. I heard nothing. I so apologize.
I can't hear anything you're saying.
Okay, I'm going to leave, come out.
Okay, she's going to leave and come back out. That's fine. So while the Da'Vette is working on her technical and her audio. So last week we explored the beginning of the prodigal son's journey, where the younger son asked for his inheritance and set out in a far country, right? And that far country, thinking about what the far country means, that far country symbolized the soul's desire to explore and individuate from source, from its maker, from its creator, and experience life outside of divine alignment. And sometimes we do that. If you think about, when you were growing up and maybe you strayed away from your parents' teachings, that then you are out of alignment with what you know to be true, and also being out of alignment with source, thinking that you are separate from source. So, and then he squandered his spiritual inheritance, and that represents how sometimes we pour our divine gifts into external validation and pleasure or distractions. And then the famine that follows, mirrors our own moments of spiritual emptiness. That's what the famine meant. So that's kind of where we were last week. I was just kind of recapping, Da'Vette. It was a powerful discussion that we had about soul separation, longing, and the first whispers of the awakening. And yeah, I was kind of going over that, just saying how we separate ourselves, or we can become separated from our oneness, the wholeness of who we are. And I like this conversation because I didn't look at it that way. And that's why it's just so fruitful for me to hear you talk about, going back to our oneness. I always felt separated from God.
And
Most
so
people
many
do.
of
How
us,
do you say that? I know you were going to say that.
so many of us do. We feel, we feel that separation, but it's about our soul's journey. So, esoterically, when we're looking at these scriptures, everything in these scriptures represents us, just one person, you. And so as we jump into day, I think it's the 11th verse we're jumping into, and we're going to end it. I want to talk about the awakening because that's what it is.
That's like verse, I think 17. You covered 11 through 15, 14 last week. So
Okay.
Yes, so now you are like at the end of it, I guess. Yeah,
So
that coming.
we're at this awakening,
Okay.
where the soul is awakening to its journey, and that's what the far country is helping to shape and do for the younger son. He had been given his inheritance. His inheritance was his ability to choose. His inheritance was his ability to be taken care of, to always be loved. Those he had asked for that, and he squandered that away, meaning he moved further and further away from his connection, from his
Can I
one.
Okay, so can I stop you right there because
Mhm.
I do hear the inheritance is what I want to focus on. And you were just saying that his inheritance was to have certainly wealth and abundance, to be loved, to be protected, and that's our inheritance. When you think about, this is just really special because that is our birthright, to be wealthy, to be loved, to have abundance, to have joy, to have peace, to have all of the things that sometimes we're striving for, right? But it
Right.
is, we've inherited it all already. So we don't
It's,
have
it
to
is,
look.
it is It is inherently who we are. And we want to show up to the scene looking for someone to save the scene when we are the scene and we show up and we get to choose what happens in the scene. We have all the power. But because we've been taught the scripture or most of our scriptures from a point of fear, we don't see the inherent, this is our oneness, that I am supposed to have the ability to have health, wealth, success, wholeness, wholeness. And
Mhm.
so the son leaving and going into that far country is going to now help to shape him being able to see that he could never disconnect from it. And he finds himself in a pigsty, and in esoterically and yeah, mystically, that's like your lower energies,
Yeah. A
your
limiting
sense
belief.
self, your everything through the material
Yeah.
world, the very sense self that you defined yourself through that. And so he finds himself, that is his state of consciousness. So he really could have been doing well, but the pigsty could have represented him doing so well that he finds no fulfillment in this.
Mm.
Nothing outside of him is feeding his soul.
Mm.
Because remember, this is about a soul's journey, and it's about your soul's journey.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that pig sty is, or that pigsty where he finds himself, as the story, the allegory mentions, is his state of consciousness about
Mhm.
himself.
Yes, is the so okay, okay, let's stop right there. I like just
Mhm.
picking this apart for me, for my brain, and probably for the others that are listening that has a brain like me.
Okay.
So the pigsty, would that represent maybe us feeling unworthy and shameful or something like that?
It can be any limiting belief,
Any lower energy thoughts,
any
lower
lower.
vibrational, lower frequency, so anger, hate, jealousy, is that was what we would consider the pigsty. Got it.
Yeah, any of those things that cause you to believe that externally there is something outside of you, and that internally you are disconnected from your creator. And so if fear, I'm sorry, I think something happened there, but that is what's going to show up. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so that's just a state of consciousness that shows you that nothing externally, not even the gluttonous behavior of you trying to fill this void that cannot be filled externally. It can only be filled internally.
Yeah.
So he finds himself in those situations. He finds himself there, but there's an awakening. The awakening is the awakening to the illusion of separateness. You know,
Mhm.
the soul is awakening to this illusion that I am separate from my creator. There's no way that you could be separate from your creator. How could you? You
Mhm.
are your creator.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's the same as, having the ocean water in the bucket that time that we talked about.
Yes.
The container may be different, but what's in the container is the same thing
Same.
that's in the ocean,
Yeah.
So
Yes.
you're connected to the all that is, and the all that is you.
Yes. I love
And
that.
I love it too. And so there is this awakening. And I love how the story puts it. It says that the son said, wait a minute. Servants in my father's house are treated much better than I am. And so I'm going to arise and go to my father's house, and I'll ask if I can just be a servant. Now, listen at this. At the end of that was a very telling esoteric message. He saw himself as a grasshopper. He saw himself as small. That symbolizes that he continued to see himself separate from his father,
Even after the awakening.
even after the awakening.
Yes, well, I can connect with that. I really can. I can. I'm glad you said that because I
Yeah.
can really connect with that. Even when I had my spiritual awakening several years ago, about over 5 years ago, but I did not immediately feel whole.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't. I still felt separated. In fact, I felt even more separated because I'm like, what is going on here? What I believed to be true was
Mm-hmm.
something totally different. So I was feeling untethered, actually. I really was. I
And
don't
at
anymore.
that moment, you were the most tethered. And
Explain
you don't,
that.
but you don't feel it then.
No.
Because at the moment that your soul began to crack open, at the moment of ascension, there is this oneness that happens, and you know things that you shouldn't know. You're going into your oneness, your all that is factor, and so you may feel untethered, but you are the most tethered to your creator. You are becoming untethered from the older brother in this story that represents your ego. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The older brother.
The
I forget
dutiful
about the
older brother. Yeah,
who.
because we've been taught this story from, you need to have thanksgiving in your heart, not as a soul journey story.
Yes.
So it switches now. This becomes a responsibility story.
Mm,
And both of the brothers are different aspects of you. Same line, because both of them were in a state of separation. The younger son is out, partying and doing his thing and going through the corporate ranks, and he finished Yale and he's doing his thing. He's the first black whatever, you know what I'm saying? He goes out and he squanders it, even though he looks as if he has achieved so much. This is a soul's journey thing. This has nothing to do with achievement and money and squandering. This has to do with connection to the soul. This has to do with the soul's journey. And so
yeah.
here the older brother is a different aspect. He is the dutiful aspect. He is the one that he stayed home. Dad could pass him down the company, which he did. He too graduated from Yale, but instead of going out and chasing his dreams, he stayed there and he wanted to be accepted and acknowledged by Dad. And everything, he checked every dot, but that became his prison, which made him feel separate.
Yeah. It became his
Yeah,
prison. That's really interesting, those choice of words, because we create prison for ourselves.
that became his.
Yeah.
The motivation to get the praise kept
Yeah.
him in ego. So then he could not connect to his divine. And the motivation to experience all these different experiences from the younger brother's aspect, and to feel separate from his father because his material world is growing, or if you want to look at it from a different standpoint, or not growing. However you want to. This is why I love esoteric teachings, because you can look at it from either way. Because what is telling the same message. And that's why you get all of these esoteric teachers now telling the same message. It can be said in many words, but this is about your soul's journey. This is about you waking up to you. I
Waking up.
love it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm excited.
No, it's good. I mean, this is a really great way to, yeah, to look at the scripture because everybody, I know I look at it very literally. So picking the scriptures apart and looking at it through this lens, it just helps me to be, like you said, I feel more tethered and
Yeah.
I feel more responsible. I feel like I'm included. Yeah, the scriptures are about me, so you feel like you're included in God's plan. That's how I
Absolutely.
feel.
Because you are a co-creator.
Yes, exactly. So,
And why wouldn't the co-creator have the same power as the creator here in the earth realm? Why are we so afraid of our power?
well, we're not taught that we have the same power. We aren't taught that. You hear it in the church. You have the power. The power is inside of you. You can do all things through Christ that is strengthening you. The power but it's all taught like the power comes from Christ, not you, but Christ. So,
Something
but
externally.
I'm sorry?
Something externally.
Yes. And so
Yeah.
that's the reason why we separate ourselves from these scriptures because of the way that we learn them, the conditioning. But I just really like that we are having this conversation because, again, it helps me to be that co-creator. It helps me to feel like I'm co-creating, like I am responsible. It's not done for me, to me, but that I'm being a
It's
part
done
of.
for you, it's done through you, and it's done with you.
Yeah, it doesn't make it seem separate. So I do
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. We have to separate our separation way of thinking, the way that we feel about being powerful enough to claim our voices as the God that you read about in the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's a big responsibility we feel. What if
Mhm.
I say something and it doesn't happen? What if I get it wrong?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because we're still believing in duality. You can't get something wrong when you are declaring and decreeing it to happen for you, through you, and as you. There is no degree of separation. It's reconditioning and relearning that the voice that was snuffed out in your childhood can be remembered,
Yes.
recharged, and renewed.
Yes. Yes.
And you can speak from that
Remembered.
space.
Yes. Remembered, recharged, and renewed to the family that's listening. That is important to know. One question that I ask, and I have the answer now, but I wanted to know, why does God welcome us so freely without punishment? See, because we're thinking that we have to be punished. And so, and because my mother gave me a lot of metaphysical books, I mean, I saw esoteric books too, but there were a lot of metaphysical books in my house. This represents we were never unworthy. We've
Never
always
unworthy.
been worthy. We just forgot that, through this incarnation that we have forgot, which is a part of the deal.
Yeah.
Understand, spiritual
Yeah.
Alzheimer's or spiritual amnesia is a part of the deal, but we were
Uh-huh.
never not worthy. We've always been worthy. We just forgot. And it's remembering that
Mm-hmm.
we are so worthy of all the things. I think that's important for people to know because people are walking around here feeling unworthy all the
Absolutely.
time.
So, we have so many older brothers out here. We have so many older brothers, that the dutiful ones, the ones that, are getting beaten up and they still show up, but they're not showing up truly for themselves, but for the reward. Not the reward of themselves, that I'm worthy whether I show up or not.
Or not. Yeah.
This is so the father represents that unconditional love. The
Yes.
father represents that currency that runs through all life. The currency that animates us, the currency that gives us freedom to choose. This is what the Father represents. And both sons had to find that love and balance through their own perspectives. The younger son had to find his, balance and oneness with his father through the perspective of losing all his material things. The older son had to find his oneness through the I feel so committed, overly people pleasing, the over explainer in the room, the one that shrinks back the most. He had to find his own throat chakra and say, come on, I am worthy because my father just told me I'm worthy. And this is how the father told him that he was worthy. He says, Dad, listen, I've been here and you didn't throw me a no party like this when the younger son came back. And Dad said, wait a minute, son, let me tell you something. Everything I have is yours.
Already.
And everything that is yours, you can have from me. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So here, the older brother had to realize that I didn't have to stay here dutifully. I could have lived my own life. I could have made some different choices, but I didn't. And I still I still get to experience the oneness and the love of my father, just as my brother does. He had to learn, he had to be awakened to grace. He had to learn grace. He had to be awakened. He had to be awakened, to grace, to be able to see grace in his own life.
I love this because his resentment, so the older brother's resentment is a reflection of our own inner wounds around being unseen, being underappreciated, comparing ourselves to others.
It's our ego. It's our ego. It's our egoic part of our mind. So then when you see this story, Deb, overlay your own awakening. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do see what you're saying. I really do. Yeah.
Boy, when I saw myself in this story, I was like, ooh. Okay.
That's pretty cool that you even did. I mean, I've never seen myself in any parts of the scripture. That's why I love that we are having this series and that you are taking the time to educate us. I've heard about esoteric, but I just didn't see myself in any of these scriptures. This is worthy and notable. This information here is worthy and it's notable, especially for somebody that's actually still, and especially for somebody that's still reading the Bible. And going to church and still reading the Bible and still thinking a different way. This is good stuff here.
Yeah.
That's why I said.
Yeah. Listen, I go to church and I love going to church. It's a soul checker for me. I see myself differently now. Esoterically, I have really managed that. I'm so proud of myself. Oops.
Yeah.
That I didn't yet, So it's and a barometer. I've come a long way and I still have so much more to go. And I'm so excited about it. And these stories turn inward gets to put ascension right there in my face. And I am ascending and evolving.
So I want to ask you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I want to ask you how this story relates to your own personal healing journey.
Oh my God, I am the prodigal son. Listen, there were some very tough times in my life. And there were times where everything else defined me except me. And then I came to myself. I came to my own source of oneness, my own place of oneness. And it came through a lot of loss. It came through sickness, but it has illuminated me to my power, to my own inner power. And so when I had these illuminary moments, because it wasn't just one, I lost my husband. Yeah, my daughter survived cancer, but it wasn't just that. It was so much more that I had to go through, and I continue to still go through, because every level has a place where you're going to have to do some work. It's just, you're going to have to do some work. You never outwork it.
Yes.
Not as long as you're over here. So I began to trust myself and hear my own voice.
Yes.
And seek my own freedom. And that was my aha moment. That was my soul awakening to its own power moment. And I began to listen. And I'm going to tell you how I did that, Deb. Every
Tell
morning,
the audience. We want to know.
Deb, I get up every morning around 5:45 and I meditate.
Mm-hmm.
My God, I meditate. I love meditation. And I don't try to quiet anything down. My meditation isn't perfect. I'm sure if it's held up against any guru, they would say I'm doing it wrong. But it works for Da'Vette.
No, there's no right or wrong.
You know, it works for me. And meditation is so important. So, as my prodigal son moment, let me get back to, having my own inner freedom. I was able to hear my voice when friends told me and encouraged me to start to listen to my own voice more. Start to trust your own voice more. Yeah. I had a village to support me in and through my journey. I am going through one of the roughest breakups that come on, can I just be honest? Yeah. I'm going through things right now, but I have to show up for me, show up for my soul, because I deserve certain things and I have certain inalienable rights as my God self. And I have to give those things to me first before I can ask anyone else to give something to me. That's going internally. That's where your freedom is, when you begin to have your own prodigal son moments and God still opens his arms up and allows you to be who you are.
Yes. It doesn't matter if you're the younger brother or the older brother. It doesn't matter. Like, we're all invited. Yes. And we're all invited back. We're all invited back to our divine self, so it doesn't matter. And I want the listeners to know, like, even when you wander away from yourself, when you wander and stray away from, you go out into that far country, you end up in a pigsty. Okay. And you got pain. It's the past of everything. You got pride going on, but it doesn't disqualify you from being restored. You are offered restoration as well. So I want the audience to know that. Doesn't matter. If you wander, it's okay. We still are invited back with open arms. And that's what the prodigal son is all about. You are invited back to restore yourself.
You're never away from that. I just want to offer this, that you're never away from that. That's the remembering.
But it feels like it. It feels like it.
It does. But once you start to remember, then you understand that you are never apart from that. And allowing that to permeate through you, that really melts away that separation feeling.
Yeah, once you go through it, people don't know that. So when they do return, it's a rebirth for you. When you do finally get there, it's a rebirth for you. Hey, Roots and Wave, how are you, sister? I'm glad to see you here. Thank you for tuning in. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
So I have another question.
Go ahead.
Well, this is actually, we've already answered it. What does it really mean to come home to yourself?
Freedom.
Knowing that
it feels like freedom.
Free, that you feel so supported, you feel tethered, you feel worthy.
You feel vindicated.
Yes, so connected.
You feel completely vindicated.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So so this is a good conversation today, and I wanted to talk about what are we going on next week. All right. You all can come home to your oneness and know that these scriptures represent who you are and your divine self. And it doesn't matter if you are operating as the older brother, the younger brother, it doesn't matter. They're all parts of you, your shadow, your ego. And so your return home is your own rebirth. And so I hope that's been helpful for people today. So what are we getting into next week?
I love what you said. That is beautiful. Absolutely. That's so beautiful. What we're getting into next week is a different way of tithing. Looking at the lesson of tithing.
Tithing. Oh my goodness. Can you all even, man, tithing? I'm really interested in seeing how this is going to play out, because tithing for me, when I was going to church, Tithing was stressful. It was stressful. It caused me, like, if I didn't have 10% of the money, then I felt like I was doing something wrong. I did start to learn, and that was early on in my life, but I did start to learn when I did go through a church. And my mother was always like, no, it doesn't mean that. You can tithe your time, you can tithe your creativity and everything. Once my mother, as she continued to evolve, of course, she fed me her evolution and a different, perspective about it. But I'm just telling you, in the beginning, this tithing, this whole understanding of tithing, I am interested in how this is going to turn out to be something that's related to you and not
it's
money.
all about you, because there's nothing in this Bible that isn't about you. And all of these stories are allegories. Paul teaches us that over in Galatians. I think it's Galatians 4:21, where he talks about it. Tithing, is good to do it the way that the church teaches. I really do believe that. When it's done in...
What do you mean?
When it's done in a holistic way. Like, if you give 10% of your money, that's fine. If that's how you feel you should do it, that's fine. I'm not coming against that. But tithing has such a deeper meaning. Tithing has an esoteric meaning that is all about 10% of something different than what we're teaching.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in hearing this one.
Yeah.
I can't even wrap my brain around it.
Well,
And it caused me so much
it's
stress.
a different way.
Yeah, I can't wait to dig into that. So, well, good. Well, thank you for this conversation today. I appreciate that. And
Thank you.
Yes, thank you everyone for joining us this week on our episode of Beyond Belief. I hope there's something that we said in this conversation like stirred your soul and brought you back to your oneness, connected you, tethered you, and allowed you to remember that you are not far from your God consciousness. You are it.
Yes.
It's you. God is you.
Yes.
That's a beautiful thing. Well, we will be here next week, same time, same place, and looking at these Bible scriptures and talking about how they are all about you. And next week is about tithing. I'm excited about that. I can't even imagine what it would be, but yeah, I'm gonna be prepared for it, and I'm bringing all of my questions. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the Fear to Freedom Project. This is where fear ends and freedom begins. And if you are a returning champion, thank you so much. Like and subscribe to the channel. You also can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. And so we will see you next time.
Yes. Yes.
Peace and love.